This week on To the Contrary, the latest presidential picks. But first, the uncertain future for illegal immigrants and for refugees, a majority of whom are women and children. President-elect Donald Trump's daughter hawks an expensive bracelet she designed and then wore on a 60 Minutes interview. Is this a preview of Trump ethics? Welcome to the Contrary, a discussion of news and social trends from diverse perspectives. Up first, immigration. Donald Trump made a lot of promises on the campaign trail. Now, America is wondering which he can or will deliver on during his first 100 days in office. Most experts point to immigration as one of, if not his first, issue. Women and children make up 80% of refugees, and women comprise just less than 50% of illegal immigrants, according to the Center for Immigration Studies. A think tank devoted to lower immigration levels, but a warmer welcome for immigrants. Democrats this week have said they lost the white working class male and female vote because they didn't focus enough on jobs. Advocates against and for immigration differ on how important the issue was to Trump voters who fit into the Reagan Democrat mold.
The issue of immigration enforcement is very closely linked to the strength of the economy as a whole, and in particular, the job opportunities that are available for especially those people who, for whatever reason, haven't gotten a college degree and are in direct competition with not only illegal immigrants, but also many legal immigrants as well.
CNN's exit polls showed that roughly a third of Trump voters wanted a path to legalization for undocumented individuals in the United States.
That same exit poll showed roughly double that number, or two-thirds, of Clinton voters want the 11 million estimated immigrants in the U.S. illegally to have a path to citizenship. Advocates also differ on whether President-elect Trump should crack down especially hard on Muslim immigrants.
One of Donald Trump's most discussed campaign promises was to implement extreme vetting and potentially even block immigration of people, including refugees from parts of the world that are associated with terrorism. So I think we can expect that he's going to try to either slow down the admission of Syrians or possibly even stop it altogether. I think that's also going to be true for refugee admissions from Iraq and Afghanistan, because those are the countries that refugees who've been arrested and convicted for terrorism crimes have been associated with.
The United States Refugee Resettlement Program is a key component of our national security protections here in the United States as well, because as individuals are fleeing from terrorism, are running from ISIS, the resettlement program states to the world that the United States stands with those victims and those survivors. Those individuals are disproportionately women and children. And as we open our doors to those individuals, we provide a counter-narrative to the idea that the United States is against Muslims.
So, Congresswoman Edwards, did the Democrats get it wrong about white voters? Is their top issue that they want jobs, or ending immigration or limiting immigration?
I think it's both, but we've got to get it better for all working class voters, and that's where we get it wrong, because we need an economic message that goes across the board.
Did they get it wrong? Yes. They didn't listen to them, they dismissed them, and they talked down to them when they did talk to them.
I would say they got it wrong with everyone. I'm a woman of color, I'm Muslim, I'm an immigrant, college educated, and I voted for Donald Trump. The scare tactics, the demagoguery on the left didn't kill the vote for me, and I think it didn't for a lot of other people because of priorities that we've got.
When the economy is doing well, people have no problems with immigration. There were 1.5 million people coming in illegally every year when Clinton was the president, but the economy was doing well and nobody much cared about it. Now there are only about 300,000 and everybody acts like it's a disaster.
Yeah, but you know what's different this past election is the rise of the alt-right. Richard Spencer, who coined that term, has been going around talking, being requested by major media to be interviewed, and he is saying that the alt-right, which is the Ku Klux Klan, is anti-Semitism, is for Nazi swastikas to be posted on walls all over the place. He says Donald Trump made us mainstream. So is that what I just look at that and I think that a lot of voters, Democrats don't want to listen to it, but a lot of voters feel like they don't want this country becoming browner.
Well, I do think that culture matters, and one of the biggest factors is English. And I used to be president of U.S. English. I think everyone being able to speak English is part of what makes us workable as an immigrant nation. And I think there are a lot of people who are concerned when they think that the country is changing culturally and English is being denigrated and people are speaking different languages. And I do think that appealed. By the way, Hispanics are learning English. 90% of them are, of their kids are absolutely fluent in English.
You are Muslim.
Yeah.
Do you agree with extreme vetting? Do you agree with cutting off Syrian refugees? 80% of whom are women and children?
Just like you said that we've had this alt-right emerge, I believe we've had an alt-left emerge that has completely demonized any conversation that we want to have on issues of national security, Islamic extremism. They shut us down. They shut me down. They call you a racist, a bigot, an Islamophobe, a chauvinist, whatever the, buzzword bingo of the day. And I believe that we do need better security policies. We need to deal with the Islam and Islamic State. We need to deal with the concerns that people have. And
is shutting down Syrian refugees a good way to do that?
I don't know about shutting down, but we need to have a more pragmatic approach that recognizes that there is an extremism problem and that is a population in which those extremists may slip in. We have to recognize with the immigrants that have come in that in fact there is a criminalization issue just down the street. Women are oftentimes afraid to walk by a corner where undocumented workers are, standing.
The majority of immigrants who are coming to this country are coming. The majority of immigrants coming to this country are coming to the country because of economic concerns. And I want to separate the racist, sexist, xenophobe, homophobes who voted for Donald Trump from an overwhelming majority who were voting because they're voting their personal economy. And I think that's important for Democrats because I think there's a direct link between those voters and their concerns for their personal economy and the concerns of urban and brown communities who are suffering from 30, 40, 50% unemployment in the same ways that some of our rural communities are.
Hearing that major media is featuring this guy absolutely drives me nuts. Stop it now. Don't give the guy a platform.
But
they're inflaming things.
They won't because
they want to undercut Trump.
But wait a minute. Wait. Only one at a time. And they were screaming at Trump rallies. I saw a video online of some guys screaming and not being stopped by the many security guards there. Jew-SA.
No, that was clarified later. That was an accent.
But no. I'm sorry.
All right. Let me finish because you were directing it to me.
It was real. I just want to say it was real.
The bottom line is you have 20,000 people at the rally. You got 10 people doing this stuff. Let's put it in perspective. Stop giving the guy a platform. You're hurting the country when you make these people seem larger than life.
Okay, but getting back to the voters like you, white people who en masse and educated, making over. He won the over $100,000 per household income category. Are they more concerned about immigration than jobs?
No, I think they're concerned about a whole slew of things, and certainly since nobody had been addressing the immigration and the terrorism aspect of it, they were very happy to hear him doing that.
But let me just quickly say,
and I've got to run us through a lot of questions.
Okay, so. But number one on crime, every study shows immigrants, and illegal immigrants in particular, have lower crime rates than the native born. On the refugee question, my husband used to head up the Office of Refugee Resettlement. It takes about 2 years for a refugee to get into the United States. We already vet them. And I, for one, would be very opposed to saying no to Syrians who are suffering. And by the way, they're suffering now because of Russian bombs.
Well, but they're suffering originally because George H.W. Bush blew up Iraq, and it ended up blowing up the whole Middle East.
Assad and his father were bad before Iraq fell apart.
In other words, whether you support Syrian refugee immigration or not, you have to recognize that America is the reason why they don't have a functioning country anymore. But Donna, your thoughts on refugee resettlement?
Well, I mean, first of all, the refugee resettlement program is probably the strongest kind of vetting system. It does take 2 years to get through. Actually, very few.
What happens to them during those 2 years?
They wait. They wait outside of the United States
in camps.
In camps to come into the United States, and they go through every kind of and the people who are being resettled in the communities they're resettled in, it's an integration program. It's finding jobs and building communities. And these are women and children, by and large, who are in really dire straits.
Okay,
it's the responsible thing to do.
Okay, but is it responsible for the left to say to people who don't want to pay to resettle these immigrants that they're bigots and racists, and throw those kinds of terms around, as Asra mentioned?
Well, first of all, I don't think anybody on the left is saying that, because we have to recognize that the voices that have been elevated on the alt-right have been elevated because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the only one who can de-escalate that and separate that from good people, working people who want to find some common ground. And if he doesn't do that, he's going to have a really bad 4 years.
Very quickly, one person. Is Trump going to overturn DACA, the Dreamers Act for the people brought here as children by illegal immigrants?
He has said he is going to rescind the executive orders, but what he could do is say, I'm rescinding the executive orders, but I'm going to promote legislation, which is the way it should have been done. It was Orrin Hatch's bill, was a Republican idea in the first place. We need legislation to give these kids.
What if he doesn't rescind it and just lets it lapse because those people have 2-year visas? He would get a lot less bad ink in the media.
I hope that he will actually take a proactive position to protect those that have especially been included into that program. I personally filled out the form for the son of a friend of mine, and I don't want anybody to live in fear that they are going to be not protected in this country. So the vote that came from him, like mine, that was not racist, not bigoted, but sensible, based on common sense values of just national security and economy, wishes compassion. So at this time, what I would hope would rise is compassionate conservatism to prove that it exists. And from the left, I would hope that the hyperbole would stop. I would hope that the name calling would stop. It's in my inbox, and it exists. And we need both sides to come to a middle path.
Okay, and what about the 2 to 3 million, what Trump calls criminal immigrants? Should he deport them? Will he deport them? What will happen to the economy that he's so concerned about if we get rid of 3 million consumers?
Those that are identified that have criminal records should go immediately.
But they are nowhere near 2 to 3 million.
Whatever the number.
185,000, and they should go.
What about, I happen to know of somebody who has 2 felonies on his record because he came here illegally twice.
Help them pack.
So he's a felon.
Because of violating
just because of trying to come to this country. Should he go?
Maybe help him pack. I don't know.
No,
I don't think that's what it is.
Violent.
Yeah, that's not.
It's really those that have criminal records. Let
her talk.
In my neighborhood, Fairfax County, Virginia, most of the crime that we've had in our neighborhood has been undocumented illegals. We have MS-13.
We're going to talk about this afterwards because those figures just simply aren't right.
Anecdotally, we got a little problem.
One at a time. I have more questions we have to go through. There's a surge of people coming here illegally, 1,000 a day. because they want to get here before Trump becomes president, coming from broken countries such as Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, where drug lords have literally taken over the government. There's no functioning police force, security for these people. They're getting killed for no reason. What do we do with that?
We have to show compassion for sure. Like, there cannot be this idea of, inhumanity. That's one thing. Like, we need to have a geopolitical regional solution to all of this conflict, the gangs, the war, the drugs.
Does it mean more cost to Americans, and are Americans willing to absorb these
This is
costs?
our geopolitical problem. This is our regional politics, and we have to find solutions. I don't think that
Bonnie,
we can have an open door.
$1,000 a day is not a surge.
Right.
As I said, during the Clinton years, it was 1.2 million a year. 1,000 a day is 365,000. That's way down.
But
we're down to levels we haven't seen since the 1970s.
Okay, Linda, on the other hand, it was 1 million a year illegals before the Great Recession. It dropped down to 500,000 over 3 years since the recession. Okay, this is a surge compared to the last 6 months.
It's down to about 300,000.
Right, and even if he did 1,000 a day, it still isn't that over the course of a year. And I think it begs the question of Donald Trump coming in and saying, you know what, we should go to the thing that we were going to do as Democrats and Republicans, and we clearly have the votes for it in the Congress, pass a comprehensive immigration reform bill so that we can put that aside and then, try to deal in this region with the unsettling in countries like El Salvador.
We're almost out of time, but I want to say to you, I covered Congress in the 80s. I covered the 1986 immigration reform bill, which means legalize all the people who are here illegally. It was 3 million then, it's 11 million now. The Democrats' version of immigration reform means open wide the borders, and that's why I think all these Trump voters are so upset.
Bonnie, that is actually not true, and in fact, what in fact passed in the Senate and is sitting in the House waiting for a passage, and it would if it were put on the floor, is not what you describe. It never has been, and it has bipartisan support. I think if Donald Trump coming into office says, we want to work with Democrats and Republicans on that, we could get it done.
All right, let us know what you think. Please follow me on Twitter at Bonnie Urbay. From immigration to potential presidential conflicts. Will Donald Trump's cabinet include women and minorities, any Democrats or Republicans who were critical of him? Late this week, former critic South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley met with the president-elect, reportedly to talk about the Secretary of State post, one of a small handful of women or minorities under consideration for his cabinet. Meanwhile, welcome to Trump's Washington. He's only taking a $1 salary, but seeking security clearance for his son-in-law. He's ignoring presidential protocol, under which all presidents since Lyndon Johnson have put their assets in blind trusts. Anti-nepotism laws ban public officials from hiring their relatives, but they can act as informal advisors. As a potential preview of President-elect Trump's Washington, this week his daughter Ivanka came under criticism for commingling the White House and her business interests. Journalists received an email from Ivanka Trump Fine Jewelry titled Style Alert. It was more of a sales alert, in which she promoted her favorite bangle, a $10,000 bracelet. She wore it on CBS's 60 Minutes. So first, Ann Stone, and because you're working on the transition, are we going to see more women and minorities watching the series of appointments like Jeff Sessions to justice? It's been like one long lineup of older white conservative
Yes,
men.
you will. And there are women for several of the positions they are considering, and there'll be more suggested. I haven't even sent my memo as to some of the people I have in mind. Yes, there will.
There will be, okay. And do you have any suggestions for the president-elect?
I do. I think that he needs to look at people like Kathy McMorris Rodgers as one example. Kelly Ayotte's been mentioned for defense. I think that'd be terrific. Nikki's great. Susanna Martinez may be another one for them to look at. Maybe even Susan Collins for a position. We've got a lot of great women. I'd say Marsha Blackburn, but I don't want to lose her in the House is the problem. But she'd be terrific too, and she works so hard for him. So we have a lot of people, even people who aren't elected. I had tons of female surrogates, any one of which would be great in various positions.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I am much more concerned not about the sex or the ethnicity of who's being appointed. I'm more concerned about their policies.
Absolutely.
And I am not happy about some of the people that he has brought in on the immigration issue, because they do come out of the Center for Immigration Studies, the Federation for American Immigration Reform. And those folks are not just against illegal immigration. They would like to drastically reduce legal immigration. I think that would hit our economy very, very badly.
Your thoughts, Don?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we'll see, but I think it's going to be important for Donald Trump to, put his words into action, and that is, having a broad-based group of people who are advising him and cabinet and other sub-cabinet level positions that are more representative than we've seen thus far. And so I'm really concerned about, what the policies bring. And some of these folks, whether it's at defense or state, are a little scary. And I think, we need to calm the fears of our allies and friends around the world, and we can do that if there's an appropriate nomination to the Department of State.
Do you think there will be?
Well, I hope so, because, ever since I came out of the closet as voting for Trump, I have this in-basket of deplorables. And I got to tell you, they run the gamut. I had a woman who's lesbian and liberal from southern Florida who said she voted for Trump, Hispanic voters, so many others that I think it would be wonderful if the administration would reflect that continuum of identity on Trump voters.
Trump's always said, and I want to switch over to the ethics issue in a second, but I do want to say that ever since even Ronald Reagan, you saw up front for major positions, so, and of course it continued with Clinton and George W. Bush and Obama especially, I think appointed more women to the cabinet even than Clinton did, but you're not seeing, it's almost like a police lineup of old white men. You're just not seeing.
He's saving the best for last. And he has always said he enjoys working with women. He actually considers us smarter, and he says we have the killer instinct. So he's always surrounded himself with strong women, and he's always appreciated the efforts
He's
of women.
also enjoyed having conversations with people
Personal
like
life,
Billy Bush.
Personal life, that's separate. In business, when he's doing business, he loves women in business because we're effective, and he knows it.
Okay, ethics-wise.
Oh. I mean, need we say more? I mean, there has to be a really bright line drawn between the role of his children and his family members and government.
He's refusing to do it, and there's no law that he says he has to put it in a blind trust. There is an anti-nepotism law, and
because
that's
Kennedy had his brother as AG.
Well, it's true, but we've lived with it, and we all
no,
accept
actually,
that.
it was. I researched that. That's what people thought it was for, but it was actually proposed in Congress before that about somebody in the Postal Service who appointed a relative to him.
It's an important marker to have down, and he doesn't, and President-elect Trump doesn't have that now. I'm actually more concerned about the idea that Ivanka Trump sits in on a meeting with the Prime Minister of Japan. Completely inappropriate, and I think unless those lines are drawn very clearly right now, that will be the hallmark of this administration.
What I'm most worried about those meetings is that he had absolutely no briefings from the Pentagon, no briefings from the State Department, no briefings from the intelligence community before he meets with world leaders.
But
and that is dangerous.
But apparently it went really well. And a word about
according to him,
Prime Minister.
It was a private meeting,
Minister.
and everything he says is that he does is fantastic, the
Prime
best,
Minister.
a winner.
I know when I met with the Prime Minister, there was somebody from the Department of State and somebody from the Department of Defense in the meeting with me.
But the Prime Minister of Japan said it was great, and he looked forward.
I just want to make one point.
Please don't talk over each other, because nobody gets hurt.
Which is that, we've all been in Washington a long time, and we know what the sort of ground rules are, and how you're supposed to fit things into every little.
That's not the way he operates.
But he doesn't operate that way, and I just want to say, this is clearly what the electorate voted for, so...
They wanted corruption?
That's not corruption.
It is corruption.
No,
let me explain to you.
My point is
she goes on 60 Minutes and advertises her bracelet that she wore.
She did not.
And she's only on 60 Minutes because she's the president-elect's daughter. I see, quite frankly,
I want a chance to defend her.
let me finish.
All right.
I see the potential for, she can go into these meetings. She can ask the Prime Minister of Japan, can you help me market my line in Japan?
She's not going to do that, number one. Number two, she has a lot more class than that. And it was one of her employees that thought he was doing something good for her by doing that, and it was a bad move. It won't happen again. But please, I mean, she has much more class than that.
The problem is, Ann, when I was the director of public liaison in Ronald Reagan's White House, a man named Armando Valladares, who had been imprisoned in Castro's prison, published a book. He wanted the president to say something nice about it. I was told flatly no, because that would enrich him.
Okay,
that's it,
and that's a big difference. That's it for this edition. Have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Beginning in December, watch for the To the Contrary's All About Women and Girls Film Festival. It's our way of celebrating our 25th season on your favorite public TV station. We want your thoughts on the winning entries. In the meantime, please follow me on Twitter and visit our website pbs.org/To the Contrary. And whether you agree or think to the contrary, we'll see you back here.